You know, I don't feel like welcome back works here. And normally, because when I upload these videos now, they're also in the form of a podcast, so there's people are going to be listening. Uh, but I feel like I would be doing a disservice to the review not to simply say at the start, I think this is the most impressive game I've seen the Toronto Maple Leafs play in the salary cap era. This is a Florida team that was at home with a chance to close things out. Now, it will get brought up, I would think, that last year in the Stanley Cup final, Florida had a hard time closing things out. Might be understating it a little bit. And yet, going into tonight's game, after that awful game Toronto played the last time out, it just felt like it was a matter of time. And I have to say to Toronto fans who watch this, I don't know how you guys are able to function right now. I have not been this nervous watching a playoff hockey game. It might be years. And I'm including anything Dallas has played in, anything from Vancouver last year. Maybe there's a couple games with Vancouver I was a little more nervous with last year, but I was very nervous, and I really had this feeling of, okay, when's it gonna happen? When's Florida gonna take this over? And at points where Florida did control the play, Joseph Woll, who they showed the stats when facing elimination, Joseph Woll's numbers are fantastic. So Woll kind of does for Toronto what Skinner did for Edmonton. There's going to be a hockey game on Sunday. And for the Toronto Maple Leafs, this is their absolute best chance to take those demons that they've had in the playoffs for 8 straight years and punt them into the sun. Like on The Good Place. So here we are. Florida's the yippy little dog, I guess. And so does that make Toronto a demon? The further you go into that analogy, the worse it gets. Woll versus Bobrovsky. And throughout this series, Bobrovsky, after a couple of shaky games early on, has been absolutely lights out. So Panthers press at a minute and a half. The teams trade turnovers. The Leafs the Leafs are breaking up plays in Toronto's end. So the first thing that I noticed was, and nowhere on this board does it mention Florida's forecheck, because Toronto's back checking tonight was excellent. So Toronto did a good job tonight, I thought, of adapting their game to the one Florida normally plays, and just neutralizes that forechecking by the Florida Panthers. Ekblad has a shot that's blocked. The Leafs clear, and 3.5 minutes in, Toronto had the only shot on net. So not a wide open game for either team. Basically, Toronto deciding we're just going to choke this whole thing off, and we're going to try to, muck this down into the mud for the whole 60 minutes. So, Bennett has a slot shot that's held. Good forechecking by Toronto. The Panthers are forced to ice it, so that's a bit of a reversal. Benoit has a one-timer that's blocker to side. Then there's an offensive zone penalty by Benoit after. And again, I don't know how much I've chewed my fingernails over the last week. I think it's been a lot. And tonight's game definitely did that. So the Florida Panthers to the power play. Barkov has a wrister that's held. Tkachuk has a shot that's blocked. Verhaeghe fires one high. Back-to-back clears. Power plays killed off. Initially, it was 2 shots for Florida, but the shots got edited down during the period. The audit was clearly going on. Tavares has a slot chance that's blocked. Carlo has a screenshot that's saved. The Panthers draw another power play. So this is where kind of thinking, okay, Florida's going to start opening this up, and if they get that first goal, right? So net feed to Tkachuk gets blocked and cleared. The Leafs fail to clear twice, but then the Panthers take that pressure off by accidentally clearing it for Toronto. That power play's killed off. 2 shots on that power play, which again get audited down. By the end of the period, Florida only had 2 shots. Those may have both been on those power plays, meaning 5-on-5, not a lot going on for Florida. Tavares has a slot chance that's blocked. Carlo has a screenshot that's saved. The Panthers draw another power play. That's the other power play. All right. Nyes misses one wide on a net drive as the Leafs press. Nylander to Holmberg. There's a near miss there. Things get punchy on a hold by Bobrovsky, though there wasn't a lot of that tonight. Both teams seem to be pretty well under control in this. Shots are 6-4 for Toronto with 6.5 minutes left. And as I said, the shots get audited down to 2 for Florida by the end of the period. So, yeah, they did not get back to the net. Leafs press with 6 minutes left. Verhaeghe fires one wide on a rush. Verhaeghe was all around the net. Could not find the net tonight. Luostarinen fires one high from the slot. The Panthers press with 3 minutes left. The Leafs get some pressure in the final minute. And the Panthers, as I said, the shots seemed to drop as the period progressed. I got a rabbit at my feet that's trying to get my attention. So I think she's realized she's not getting treats from me right now. All right, so it's 0-0 after the first period. We go to the second period. Anybody who doesn't believe me, come here. There she is. Say hi, Cinnabon. Say hi, Bun Bun. All right, second period. That's going to confuse her now. So there's an early press by Florida. Kulikov has a shot that deflects wide. The Leafs rush. Nosek to Greer, near miss at the Toronto net. The Leafs press at 3.5 minutes, but now Toronto is not getting a path to the net either. Both teams choking off the middle of the ice, slot chances, very, 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 very few of them in this one. Marchand has a shot that's blocked as the Panthers press. Tkachuk has a net drive chance that's saved. The Leafs get pinned down a bit. Carlo breaks up a Panthers 3-on-2 and breaks his stick on the play, gets a stick granted to him by one of the forwards. So that left things a little bit difficult. More Panthers pressure at 6 minutes. 6.5 minutes in, the shots are 5-0 in favor of Florida. So Florida Panthers are doing their best now to break that scoreless tie and really get the crowd into it and start getting this game going in their favor. Lawton has a slapper from a distance that goes high. Florida's choking off any Leaf passes at this point. Panthers pressing. Leafs are turning it over. Hitting's ramping up as well. More pressure by Florida. Holmberg to Tavares gets blocked. The Panthers rush. Halfway through the period, the shots are 10-0 for Florida. I think those got audited down as well. It's one of those games where it was really obvious that they were counting shots and then somebody's going, those weren't on net. Take those off. So too many men on the ice. The Leafs get a power play. And there's nothing to argue here. The Florida fans booed, but you got to be booing the Florida Panthers on this because all 6 players were in play. So one guy jumps off, 2 guys jump on. That's sometimes some nervous energy. But either way, it's a power play. Tavares can't bury one past traffic. Puck's cleared out. And then there's an offensive zone penalty by Matthews with 28 seconds left to make it a 4-on-4. And you know, the pressure on Austin Matthews has never been higher than it is in this one. I believe that anyways. And Sportsnet put up a post which showed that nobody in the history of the NHL has had more than 400 goals in his NHL career and not had a single goal past the first round. I mean, it's an odd time to post that. Hopefully somebody at the bench didn't, show Matthews. Look what came up on my phone. So Matthews goes to the box. And what happens from there is Lawton to Nylander, near miss on a rush during the 4-on-4. Then there's a shorthanded rush by Yarncroke. And Florida only manages 1 shot during that power play. Everything's killed off. So, Matthews comes out of the box. We are still in a 0-0 tie at this point. Luostarinen has a rush chance that save. Jones breaks up a Leafs 2-on-1. I thought Seth Jones had a pretty decent game tonight. Leafs press with 4 minutes left. 3.5 minutes left. The Leafs go back to the power play. That leads to a shorthanded rush by Barkov, which is defended by Marner. And that's one of the reasons why I will defend Marner to the ends of the earth. Marner plays on the blue line on the power play. He's good defensively. He's smart with the puck. I know that his game's not perfect. I've never said that it is. But I do think he takes a lot of flack. And I've never really understood why there's as much of it as there is. So there's another clear and the power play's killed off. The Panthers press in the final 30 seconds. The Leafs block. The shot attempts in the second period were 34-11 for Florida. To no avail. It's still scoreless after 2 periods of play. So we go to the third period. Forsling fires one wide during an early Panthers press. So in between the second and third period, if you're Paul Maurice, all you're telling the guys is, hey, you win this period, we're done. If you're Craig Berube, you're telling you guys, look, all you have to do is win these 20 minutes in Florida, and you never have to come back again until next season. And then we can go home, we can win at home, and Florida's done, and then we can see Carolina in the next round. So, McMahon has a rush chance that's defended. Bennett has a backhand that goes wide. Tanev fires one wide on a net drive. The Leafs press at 2.5 minutes. Nylander goes beast mode, and Nylander didn't have the breakaways tonight. I'd expected a couple, none. But Nylander goes beast mode, cannot get to the net. The Florida players let him skate around and do what he does with the puck, but they do not give him a path to the net there. 5 minutes in, there's one shot on net that belongs to Florida. Very tightly played third period. Mikkola to Bennett near miss. Verhaeghe fires one wide, and then it happens. Marner forces a turnover. The same Marner that people don't like. He gets the puck to Matthews, the guy who everybody talks about as not being able to get the goals when they count. And Matthews goes 5-hole on Bobrovsky. Now, would Bobrovsky want that one back? Probably. Doesn't matter. Matthews gets the goal from Marner at 6:19. Toronto has a 1-0 lead because this guy gets a goal. And it's the first goal in the series, obviously, for Matthews. It's the first time he's had a goal in the second round, so there you go. And then the Panthers look to respond. Lundell to Marchand near miss. Tavares then has a rush chance, that's saved. Domi has a net drive chance, that's saved as well. At 8.5 minutes, the shots are 3-2 for Toronto. We know there's a push coming from Florida, though, don't we? So it's a 1-0 lead, and I'm watching basically like this. Like, okay. There's no, like, I celebrate during playoffs, but my celebrations are very muted during a game, as if like I'm scared the hockey gods are going to, hey, look at that, he's celebrating. Quick, smite the other team. Smite, they will be smoten. So, and I know it's weird, but part of the reason I ended up with a YouTube channel. The Panthers draw a power play, and this is where, if you're a Leafs fan, everything probably clenches a little bit tighter, doesn't it? Because I know it did for me. And all I could think during this was, okay, does somebody want to check Steve Dangle's blood pressure? Because it has to be pretty high. Because you're always thinking in the back of your mind, like, does the other shoe drop? Can Toronto get this done? So it is a power play for the Panthers. They're an early clear again. And honestly, great penalty kill by Toronto. No shots on net for Florida on a power play while they're behind in their own building 1-0. Masterful penalty kill by Toronto. Bennett has a rush chance that's kicked aside. The Leafs back checking, giving very little room. Playing Florida's game. I thought Toronto came out tonight and maybe they just switched jerseys with the Panthers. They're like, hey, why don't we be you guys? You guys be us for tonight, because they were playing Florida's game. Marchand has a net feed that's picked off, and at 14-17, it's Max Pacioretty. Boy, was Berube right about this guy, right? Berube puts him up in the lineup, and there were some questions at the time about moving Pacioretty up to a more prominent role. It works. Pacioretty buries one in close on a rush. McMahon and Domi with the assist. Did I celebrate? No. I know Toronto did. I saw the footage of their... Why are they all called mosh pits? To me, it's not... The mosh pit is where people might be getting hurt and you have to wear combat boots. I go to a lot of metal concerts. Mosh pits are scary. I would never want to actually be in a mosh pit, whereas these celebrations in the middle of the street, other than being old enough to be a much older brother to everybody out there, I don't see a mosh pit. They do conga lines. I don't see conga lines at metal concerts. I'll let you know if I ever see one. I'm going to some metal concerts this summer. I'll let everybody know. So the Panthers press are kept to the outside. Shots are 4 apiece with 4 minutes left. And such a tight defensive game. Goalie pull happens with 3:15 left. Verhaeghe's denied, so lots of chances for Verhaeghe tonight. I think they said after 2 periods he had 10 shot attempts, and 6 of them missed the net altogether. The Leafs ice the puck with 2:37 left. There's a near miss for Verhaeghe. The Florida Panthers call a timeout with 1:48 left. And then a hand pass puts the puck out to the neutral zone with 1:34 left. Hand passes in the offensive zone, as mild an issue as that sounds like, I think there were 3 of those called on Florida at key points in tonight's game. I know there was at least 2. I think there might have been 3. Toronto holds on. They win this one 2-0. The series is tied at 3. We're going to have a Game 7 on Sunday. Should be fine. Shots on net, 7-2 Toronto in the first, 12-6 Florida in the second, and then 7-4 Florida in the third. 7-4 for Florida. However, you can also phrase it, Florida only had 7 shots in that third period. Toronto defended really well. Final shots are 21-17 in favor of Florida. The chess magnet's on the board. The shock llama's on the board, because after the last game, I don't think anybody expected this. I don't think anybody said today, I think Toronto's going to shut Florida down. I don't think Florida's getting a goal tonight. I didn't see anybody say it, and if they had, they probably would have got laughed at. So if you were thinking it, you probably wouldn't have posted it anyways. Power plays, Toronto 0 for 2, Florida 0 for 4. Huge penalty kills by Toronto tonight. The hits, 57 to 34 for Florida. A lot of hitting. I think about 50 of those were on Chris Tanev, but Tanev's pre-tenderized before he got to Toronto. Anyways, he's basically jello at this point in his career. He's blocked so many shots. I mean, he's got, 3 teeth left? Like, Tanev is just a warrior. I've loved Tanev his whole career, and I'm glad to see him playing well for Toronto. Woll saves 21 for the shutout. And after the last game where he saved 20 out of 25, I don't think we saw that coming. Bobrovsky saves 15 out of 17. So, Sunday is the most tense game we're going to get for the Toronto Maple Leafs. It is very likely to be the most watched hockey game of these playoffs by a long, long way. Although tomorrow's game between Dallas and Winnipeg is probably going to get watched by a lot of people as well. But, man, what an amazing game for Toronto. And I think the message for these players going into Game 7, I'm talking about the Toronto Maple Leafs, especially for Marner and for Tavares, if they don't win, it could be their last game as Toronto Maple Leafs. Go out there, give them hell, play your best, and maybe it's not your last game as a Maple Leaf. Maybe you're playing Carolina next week. And go with that message. Because Toronto showed tonight they can play with Florida. And this is what's so frustrating to me over the last now 9 years with Toronto. Toronto can play, I think, with anybody. But they get in their own heads. Berube said it himself during the last game that they had already kind of played the game through in their heads and they were very much in, psychologically, they'd already kind of psyched themselves out. Just go out and play your game. Go out and play your game, play like this, and they could knock off the Florida Panthers. And as a shock to everybody, it is a Game 7. Toronto has had a lot of trouble in Game 7s, well documented. I've talked about it on this channel a lot. But I'm very glad that I'm not doing a video tomorrow on how the Leafs have fallen apart again come playoff time. And so, yeah, huge game tonight. Matthews with the game-winning goal. Toronto lives on. Game 7. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Hit like and subscribe in the event you may not have done so already. Legitimately, I cheered at the end of this. I really hope that we finally see Toronto get to that next round. I think it would end a lot of the narratives around the Toronto Maple Leafs, and I think it could go a long way. I don't know how they would do in a conference final, but just seeing Toronto in a conference final for the first time in over 20 years, I think would be great. And then maybe it doesn't cost as much to bring Marner and Tavares back because they'll want to finish what they started. Whereas if this team's out in an early round, maybe they're more likely to say, especially in Tavares' case being older, than Marner, maybe they're more likely to say, I want a chance to win that one more. I've loved my time in Toronto, but I don't think it's going to happen here. Go to the conference final, gives you that little bit of hope and a little bit of thought that, hey, maybe it can happen. Be great if it did. Let me know your thoughts. Thank you guys so much for all your support. And for all the Leafs fans that still think that, nope, THG's lying, he absolutely hates the Leafs, keep it up. Love that energy. But yeah, hit like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. I will talk to you again soon.